starts it off with, I recently fired my first ever direct report. Although he was low energy, uninspired, and an awful speller, what ultimately led him to the axe was his insistence on boundaries. All right, so this is Gabrielle Peterson. She's a writer, a freelance writer. Specifically, she does poetry and writes for the HuffPost, so you kind of know where we're going with this. She wrote an article titled, Want to Work a 9 to 5? Good luck building a career. And I think we all know really bad articles when we see one. The TLDR is you can't progress in your career by just doing your job, which... all right. I know you guys are going to dislike the article, but if you could just do me a favor and like the video instead, because it does affect my reach, likes, watch time, engagement, all that stuff. I don't normally ask for it up front, but the algorithm is changing, and that's what I have to do now. So if you'd like to see more, subscribe, leave a like, comment, etc., etc. I'd like to get my videos out to more people, so let's continue. He starts it off with, I recently fired my first ever direct report. Although he was low energy, uninspired, and an awful speller, what ultimately led him to the axe was his insistence on boundaries. Starts off with the power move. That's right, I have power, I fired someone. And then directly just insults this person. Although he was low energy, uninspired, and an awful speller. Imagine being the person that got fired by this person and then reading this article. How is this professional at all? Just roasting all of her employees. Okay. He would come into the office at 9 every morning, leave at 5. Seems reasonable to me. Sounds like a regular job. And then he would be inaccessible anytime before and after. Sounds like boundaries to me. But that's what she's roasting. His insistence on boundaries. If you ever get any flack for having boundaries, time to leave. Regardless of deadlines or passion projects, his workday was determined not by his work, but by his hours. Well, that's how jobs go. You get hired for a time, and then you do the work for that time, and then you leave. Unless you're working for yourself, in which you get rewarded for doing better work, or if you do bad work, you get punished for that. So it makes sense if you're working a job and you're not being rewarded for working overtime, especially on salary, because here in the US, you don't get overtime pay on salary. And if you're being paid hourly, well, then that's literally how you get paid. So the concept of work-life balance is so ubiquitous nowadays that businesses erect culture committees to make sure the idea is enforced. I mean, that's a good thing, right? HR departments are instructed to add the phrase to the end of job postings in an effort to communicate a culture not only of hard work, but of a good life. Our diets, checkbooks, relationships are all in areas which we strive to find harmony, but then the term work-life balance, as we know, it became its own philosophy only recently. I mean, that's because companies have started pushing you to live at your job, and so people are like, wait, no, we should have work and then we should have life. Careers in industries like law, medicine, and architecture established reputations early on as high-powered and rigorous. Their demanding hours and high-stakes deadlines epitomizing corporate success and creating associations between time spent working and professional satisfaction. Having to work late or pull an all-nighter demonstrated employees' value and implied their commitment to their careers. Nah, they're just people that don't know any better, or corporate simps, or sometimes you just have to do it, and your reward for working late and pulling all-nighters is you get to keep your job. And side note here, if your boss is ever saying you have to work overtime or work weekends and you don't get any reward for it other than keeping your job, it's time to find a new job, because that's an abusive relationship pretty much. He goes on to talk about hustle culture and blah, blah, blah. And then success to these young people was more contingent on hard work than it was on salary. Yeah, but hard work doesn't pay the bills. If hard work was the solution to having lots of money and being successful in life, the people doing construction, working really hard, back-breaking labor every day would be the top 1%. They'd be the rich people. But hard work is not just the key to having infinite money. There was pride and time investment. I mean, there was, but not anymore, because people realized that putting more time in without being rewarded for it doesn't make any sense, as it was regarded as a necessary step in the construction of a dream. I mean, maybe if you're working for yourself. Additionally, with the uptick in freelancers, contract employees, and entrepreneurs, time directly corresponded to money made. If you weren't hustling, you weren't making money. Yeah, I mean, and this is in reference to working for yourself. And so then she goes on and talks about Google and Amazon and their incentives to start doing work-life balance, and how CEOs are realizing that they don't want to be CEOs anymore, like Jeff Bezos stepped down from Amazon, etc. And then we get to the worst part of the article here, which is, as it became increasingly common for high-ranking business people to leave their careers, the pendulum began swinging in the opposite direction. Soon, a full rejection of the workaholism that had drained so many went into effect. As people were given permission to feel overwhelmed, they drew a stark line in the sand between their home lives and their work lives, as As you should. For many, this simply meant not doing work during nights or weekends. For others, it became an excuse to end the day mid-assignment, to leave coworkers hanging, to sit idly until the clock struck 5. In essence, it emboldened an ugly mediocrity. Okay, let's break this sentence apart here. It meant not doing work during nights or weekends, right? Well, because you're not being paid for that work unless you're working for yourself, so why do that? For others, it became an excuse to end the day mid-assignment. I mean, there's always going to be work the next day, especially at a job. You can always do more work and make more money, but you can't get your time back. And so for me, that makes sense. It sucks to suck, Bob, in accounting, that you didn't get this information that you needed from me Friday because I left. And, whatever. It'll be there Monday when we come back. The world's not going to end. To sit idly until the clock struck 5 o'clock. It emboldened ugly mediocrity. Nah, it's just people playing the game. Just like hustle culture, what started as a reasonable endeavor, the healthy pursuit of equity in work life became distorted, morphing into a type of compartmentalization and a misguided entitlement to a workday neatly bookended. That's how it should be. You go in at 9, you leave at 5, you're inaccessible after that. Like, you got to have boundaries. And this is like, I just got an email from a viewer that sent me this article as I was setting up to film this and roast this, and the subject line was, I've never wanted to punch someone so bad. You're going to fire someone, brag about firing someone, insult that person that you fired, and then roast him for having boundaries? Sounds like you're the terrible boss here. A work-life balance that truly divides the work and life components of a person's experience may be okay for a job, but for a career, it simply won't fly. To go above and beyond is the only way that you can progress. Actually, that's not true at all. You can do great work within the time that you work. You can work harder within the time that you work, more than other people, and thus you progress. You don't have to work long hours. You don't have to pick up the phone. You don't have to do weekend work. You don't have to do overtime to make progress in your career. And now I'm not advocating people be lazy. I'm just saying that if people say the only way that you can make it is to constantly go above and beyond when you're not being rewarded for it, then that implies that you're a sucker, pretty much. You've bought into this. There's no disputing it. Actually, there is, lady. Sometimes emails need to be sent at night. They can wait. Sometimes calls need to be taken early in the morning. Nah, I got sleep to catch. Some days a Monday deadline necessitates a few hours of work on a Saturday. Nah, you can catch me on Monday when we can continue this work here. Are you going to be rewarded for any of this stuff? No, you're not going to be rewarded for taking an early call. You're not going to be rewarded for working on a Saturday. You're not going to be rewarded for any of this stuff unless you're working for yourself. So none of this has any point except for the fact that they'll just be like, well, you get to keep your job, which again is obviously a terrible relationship to have with your employer because that is just them dangling your livelihood over your head as your motivation to do work. What happens to like wanting to do good work? You're just working so that you can keep your job all the time, which is going to put a bunch of stress on you and make you hate your life and hate your job and do bad work. Again, I don't know how this lady gets paid to write. And what's more, this balance implies a strict trade-off between the two constituent parts, a polarizing schedule on and off. At work, you're all on. After work, you're all off. Yeah. I mean, people like that. That's why people choose to go into the office, because it separates them from their home, and it's easier for them to leave work at work. It also bases one day around an arbitrary time frame that measures productivity by hours spent behind a desk as opposed to the actual work product put out. Okay, so if you work a corporate job, you don't get paid based on merit. You don't get rewarded based on merit. You get rewarded based on subjective things like loyalty or who you know or networking. You don't get rewarded in the corporate world based on doing good work. You'd like to think so, and that's what everyone tells you. Work hard, do good work, whatever, right? And you'll be rewarded tenfold. It's a meme. As Gen Z graduates and enters the workforce now, they, just as their predecessors did, are responding to the current corporate climate. Millennials took the hint that overworking was the way to go, likely influenced by the Great Recession, while Gen Z, which is graduating with record high employment, is picking up on the work-life divide, and in my direct report's case, getting fired for the rigidity. Good. I'm sure he's much happier than he was working for you. Our careers are part of our lives, and try as we might to leave work at the office, the expectation is just as unrealistic as leaving home at home. No, it's not the same thing. At home, you're not working. Inevitably, sometimes things bleed into one another. If we are at work and we receive a phone call from a crying child, would we not take it? Yes, because that's your life. You always prioritize your life over your work. You do not live to work. You work to live, and so you should always prioritize yourself over your job. There's nothing wrong with that. It feels selfish, and companies will tell you that it's company time and whatever. Like, just ignore all of that. Always live your life for yourself first, because the company is looking out for itself first, and that's what it is. If we are in a meeting and discover there is a leak in our house, would we not rush out? Yeah, you would, because it's your life. Work-life balance is reasonable to ask of an employer, but we must understand that balance does not equate to separation. I think that's up to the person, but the more separation you have, the better, in my opinion. Unwilling to work the occasional Saturday or take a call at 7 p.m., then good luck building a career. Gabrielle Peterson is a Chicago-based writer and editor who works in the urban design industry. Why does Fortune.com even give this person the time of day? We have some articles on HuffPost. A job seeker's lament. What is this about? I was recently asked in a job interview, on a scale of 1 to 10, how lucky are you? So how long does this go? Oh. Man, but I guess that's the life of a freelance writer. You just got to say stuff that gets attention, right? And that's what I'm going to boil this all down to. Someone who wrote something purposely for attention, and you're getting it. So enjoy. And I hope the person that you fired sees this and realizes just how terrible of a person you are. That's my honest opinion, because these opinions are garbage, and you should have work-life balance in your life. Again, I'll say it. I say it like twice a week now. You don't live to work. You work to live. Always separate yourself from your job and look out for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Work extra if you're rewarded for it. Don't if you're not. But that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, even though you hated the article, please hit the like button. It affects my reach. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this article. I'll link it. I'll pin it as a comment. I have a Patreon. You can support me down in the description if you'd like. There's some other links in there you can take a look at if you want. Helps me keep doing what I do. Calling out this corporate propaganda and other nonsense. But got some good stuff coming up. Hope you're ready. By the way, people keep asking about this dude in the background right here. This is my friend from childhood. We met when we were like 11. He's visiting for a few weeks. Not the intern. The intern is actually he's downstairs, still locked in the basement. So don't worry, guys. He didn't escape this time. But yeah. So anyways, that's him. We're just hanging out. I'm filming videos. It's a little weird for him to be in the background just listening to me rant. I got to be honest. But he doesn't seem to care. Do you care? He doesn't care. So it's all good. It took me a long time to get to this stage of YouTube where I can make videos with other people around. That's a story for another time. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.